Bring me some research.
It smokes, it drinks, it philosophizes.
Just let me suck, please. Just a little suck on each one.
My mouth's bleeding, Bart! My mouth's bleeding!
Shall we talk now or wait?
So you got your own little studio now?
Yeah, so welcome to the basement of Otsego Media in Oneonta. Let the autofocus take care of that. That's only a portion of the gear that we have at our disposal. Nice. You can see some, the rails are out of the shot, but there's the back of the rails, lights, you know, LED softbox, cases, chargers, stuff for days. So yeah, we're, come on. There you go. Yeah, man, we're doing all right for ourselves. I don't know if you want me to just like get right into it, but
yeah, cooking with grease.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Corey and I, we both left LA right around the same time for different reasons. He left in like May 2019, and then I came back here June 2019. And I think both of us at the time thought of it as kind of like a temporary thing, because it's just like you're not supposed to move back to your hometown, and especially here because there's definitely a cliche of people who either leave Oneonta or like never leave Oneonta and just spend their whole life here, or they leave and then they come back. And so I think both of us were treating it as kind of like just like a temporary thing. Like, let's get out of LA, let's just get established. He and Danielle were actually looking for houses and for work over in Vermont. And I was here, I had a buddy down in Jersey that was doing weddings. So like I had work for a bit, but neither of us really planned on staying here for that long. And for me, in my head, at least for a while, I was like, well, I'm just here for a bit and then I'm gonna go back out to LA because that's just where all the work is and that's just what I know. So, you know, cut to a couple months later, and basically Corey and Danielle wound up buying a house right here in Oneonta. Danielle wound up getting a job offer here in town that paid way better than anything she ever made in LA. So she was set for that. Corey's a veteran, so it was pretty easy for him to get a house. So he buys it, you know, took a couple months to close and all that. And then finally in like mid to late September 2019, you know, he hits me up one day and he's just like, hey man, you know, you should come over one day. I got a couple ideas on a whiteboard for a script that we could write and a film that we could shoot for cheap. And so I went over to his house, and right there on the whiteboard, there were 3 things written down. One was something about an Uber driver based off of like something that had happened to a relative recently, but Stuber had just come out. So I was like, well, you know, the Uber comedy market's kind of cornered right now. I can't remember what the second one was, but then the third one simply said, man's house gets hit by asteroid. And I just immediately gravitated to that log line. I was like, I don't know what that movie is, but that's what we should write and that's what we should shoot. And, you know, the original thing was like, well, let's just write it. I mean, you know, who knows if we'll actually be able to shoot this thing, but let's write something that we can shoot right here in our hometown for cheap, not have to ask for anyone's permission and just do it. But let's write it first. So we started writing. We had like a weekly writing day, like basically every Monday I'd get over there, there'd be a pot of coffee. We'd have the index cards all laid out on his big dining room table. And actually, if you do wind up watching Asteroid, the big dining room table where a lot of scenes take place, and I kind of treated that as kind of like a battle center, and also like tried to, it's so funny, like as a filmmaker, you know, and I guess just as a storyteller in general, like there's so many things that in your mind you're like, oh, this is going to do this, and oh, I'm doing this a specific way, and it's like more often than not, like nobody ever notices any of that things.
Oh yeah,
and never notices any of those things. But like
especially in a script.
Table, yeah, especially in a script. But then executing that in person, once I saw the table and I knew that that's where like a lot of like, well, basically 3 big conversations were going to go. I tried to frame them and block them in a way where whoever's standing at the head of the table is basically the one like making the decisions, which I mean sounds obvious as I describe it. But so like the first 2 scenes, and actually, yeah, that's right. The framing actually is identical to how they're not the framing, but their layout is similar to how they are in the opening scene. But anyway, so there's the 2 scenes where they're at the table and Spencer, the dad and the head of the family, is at the head of the table and he's the one making decisions. But then the third time they're at the table is where Zoe, the teenage daughter, is at the head of the table and she's the one making decisions. And she's like, Mom, we're packing our shit and we're getting out of here. Dad's lost it. So anyway, if you watch the movie and you see that giant dining room table, that is the exact table where the script was written, basically,
Nice.
because we had all of our plot point index cards laid out, and you'd move this over here, and then you'd strike this, and then you'd be like, oh well, actually maybe this should go somewhere else instead of where it is right now. And it was,
I haven't done the note card thing in fucking years, but I feel kind of the yearn to go back to just that analog tactile way of doing it instead of everything fucking digital.
That's exactly it, and that's why I love it, because like, and actually I've started doing this recently with to-do lists, with like things that I need to do around the house, or just like edits I need to get done, or emails, whatever. I just like, I have the same thing, I have index cards, and I just write out a list of stuff, and like throughout the day it's just like crossed out, done, and it's like you said, it's like it's like you're actually writing it out, and so therefore like your brain is actually like processing that it's something that you have to do, and so also there is that tactile satisfaction of like actually crossing something off of a list.
It's almost like by writing it down, you've done the first step of the thing already. You have momentum,
Yep.
Which I never do, and that's why I am what I am.
Yeah, I use Post-its.
Post-its are great. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be index cards, just like
And
anything.
the satisfaction of crumpling it after you've done the fucking thing.
Or like, oh, this plot point ain't gonna work. In the fucking trash with you.
I use procrastination and self-loathing.
Well, I used to do that also, but with the index cards, it got a lot easier to not do that.
Maybe get on that.
So anyway, enough about me. How about you guys?
Hey, man, our show's a platform for you.
Where can a fella see Asteroid?
Pretty much anywhere, actually. It's on Tubi, Roku, Freevee, which is something that I just learned about. I think it's free to watch on YouTube. You just have to make sure that you're finding Asteroid. But actually, a great thing happened recently, because I'm sure you heard the news about NASA and how they knocked an asteroid off course and all that stuff. And so if you Google just Asteroid movie, ours is right there. Like, according to Google,
SEO.
we are the Asteroid movie, which means that we've beat out Armageddon, Deep Impact, like, and so we might get a little boost in viewers after that, because that's the.
And so Kevin Hart and The Rock star in the Asteroid remake of the Atari 2600 video game.
So yeah, so if you Google Asteroid movie, it should just come right up. Out of Touch, Family Man moves
Dude, I'm watching
back
that
to
shit
his
tonight.
hometown.
I should have watched it last night.
And that came out, it was released last fall?
Last year, yeah, last November. Last November it came out, and it's been doing pretty well. Actually, ITN, the head of ITN keeps asking us when we're gonna make a sequel. And
Nice.
that is the fucking filmmaker's curse in a nutshell, because the whole point of Asteroid, well, you guys haven't seen it, so I can't spoil too much, but the whole point of Asteroid is to not know what happens. And so
it's ambiguous at the end.
Yeah, and to have a sequel would just like ruin that. And the only way we could do a sequel is if we did it. We've joked about a couple things, but I mean, there's not anything where I could seriously
just do a big dumb
consider...
sellout sequel, make some bank, and then go do a fucking one for you. I'm actually coming to the conclusion that selling out is only something like jaded people really accuse others of. It's kind of like, how mad could you, like, are you insisting this guy go work a day job and take 3 years to make the same money he'd make on that sellout job that would take him 6 months? You insist for integrity's sake that he not do that to get money? Because you got to get money to live, and even to finance your other projects. You can make enough money on a studio project to finance a little project,
That's the thing. Like, I think people often forget that it takes money to do these things. Actually, speaking of which, I mean, just kind of a somewhat tangential story, but if you saw, I did something for the 20th anniversary of 9/11 last year, and that's actually doing really well on YouTube. I think it might already have 1 million views, because it involved 9/11 family members. It was shot professionally. It's like a legit documentary. And so shortly after it came out, there were a couple comments asking a couple questions about it, et cetera. And so I just kind of made this post like, hey, we had a very short amount of time to do this. We only had about 3 months from concept to execution, and we really had to move fast. And just recently I got an email where it's just like, someone replied to your comment and they were like, 3 months isn't a long time to deal with the subject matter such as this, and I feel like you should have spent years on this. It's just like, okay, so tell me you're not a filmmaker without telling me you're not a filmmaker. Because it's
make
just
a
like,
meme of that,
like,
for sure.
Well, that was the whole point of my comment. It's just like, we had 3 months. Like, we had a very finite amount of money. The movie had to be done by the anniversary. Like, the previous production team and the previous director had just completely dropped the ball and wasted like way too much money on a concept that didn't work. They had handed in an edit and everyone was just like, this is terrible, we can't release this, what are we going to do? And so they hired me back again, because it was kind of this whole thing where like I was supposed to do it, but then this other guy in the organization convinced them that he should be the one to do it, and that is just, so me and
this is why Gull and I try and make shit just with the two of us and a fucking phone at this point.
Yeah,
a flashlight,
other
a
people.
phone, and a psychopath. That's all you need. That's all you need. And so I didn't even know that you had done that last year. And I can find that on YouTube. What's it called?
it's called The Unspeakable. And if you if you search that, it should be well, there's a lot of YouTubers that are called that. But yeah, if you search Unspeakable movie
9/11.
Yeah, 2021, you'll see Bob McIlvaine on the artwork. You'll see
Cool.
like a little autopsy drawing there. But yeah, I mean, again, like it is a miracle that not only we managed to get a halfway decent film, but that we actually managed to get it done and get it done on time.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
to that commenter, if you ever listen to this, do some work on your own. Like, this movie doesn't have to be the be-all end-all of this subject. It's like, use it as a launching pad to go do more research on your own and shit.
Well, and I wonder if you watched it, because the film is like very specific. Like, I mean, it focuses on a very specific story thread, interviews people for a very specific reason.
You should have spent years on this very specific thing, right?
Yeah, it's just like, dude, I don't know if you know who I am, but I've already spent years of my life.
Yeah,
on
I
this
was going to
fucking
say the
subject.
motherfucker spent his 20s and most of his 30s on 9/11.
I was surprised you went back to the subject.
Yeah,
Because you're kind of over talking about loose change to a degree, right?
yeah, but that's why I would encourage you to watch The Unspeakable, because there's a whole angle in there where I personally felt that I hadn't really, that not only that I hadn't really covered, but that wasn't really being focused on the way it could have. And so I found a nice
What's
fresh
the log
angle.
line of The Unspeakable? Is this more of like an aftermath thing, looking at the victims of it, or is it?
Yeah, no, it focuses it focuses entirely on family members, but there is a thread of discussion that deals with that stuff. But I think it's done in a very tasteful way. There's actually not a single shot of 9/11 in the entire documentary, which I'm actually kind of proud of. Yeah,
Nice.
so check it out just for that.
Cool.
For that merit alone.
I'm gonna have myself a little Dylan Avery Film Fest this week, which
well, if you want to start with something depressing and serious, start with Unspeakable, and then if you want a palate cleanser after that, watch Asteroid. So
sweet. Where does Black and Blue fit in there?
Right? I fucking
well,
love that movie.
That finally, man, and that's that. I mean, you want to talk about shady independent movie distributors and just like having to learn shit the hard way. I mean, that movie sat around with Summerhill and Wild Eye for 3 years. Like, I got maybe 2 statements, I got no money. And then finally, when it kind of worked out, because their contract lapsed on like, it was like June 2020 or something like that, when their 3-year contract was officially over, which was right at the time that the George Floyd protests were kicking off. So I basically, and at the same time, I'm talking to my entertainment lawyer friend, and I'm just like, hey man, my contract's up with Black and Blue, and I might need a little help getting it back from my distributor. And so I sent him the contract that I signed, and he's like, yeah, because actually the day that I pulled up the contract to look at it was the day that their contract expired. And I was like, oh my God, James, like
that's perfect.
Their contract's up like today. And he's like, all right, cool, send me the contract. Let me know who to send a letter to. Because also, after I told James, my lawyer, what was going on with that, he started looking into it. He's like, there's a press release from Summerhill about how they have a police brutality documentary at Cannes. And I'm like, looking at my watch, I'm just like, well, that's definitely outside of their contract. And so my lawyer sent them a very concise, but very strongly worded cease and desist. It's just like, your contract's up. You need to stop doing anything you're doing with this movie, and you need to give the rights back to my client. And
were they shopping it at Cannes, or was it actually programmed into the festival?
No, they were shopping it at Cannes, and they were just like,
I was gonna say, if it's in the festival, then you got a decision. You're like, maybe we'll let them run it, even though
it was going to be at their it was going to be at their little booth somewhere that probably nobody was going to go look at. But it was just like, it's just like, guys, your contract's up, and like, you haven't even paid me. You've given me like 2 statements. I don't even know how much money the movie might have made, even though I don't give a shit. But it's just like, but if you guys are raking in money and just keeping it all because of, expenses.
Right.
But anyway, with all that being said, the contract, like I said, was up. I immediately sent a screener to Journeyman Pictures in the UK, and they were like, we'll take it. And so it's now with Journeyman. The problem is I don't think they could get it back on Amazon just because it was already on Amazon and blah, but I mean, the
Did
fact
you
is
happen to have that's fucked up. I didn't realize that if you have a distributor and they get it on Amazon, if you get the rights back, you won't be able to use that platform again.
well, it might also depend on the distributor. Like maybe Journeyman doesn't have like enough pull to get it done, but I know that they tried several times submitting it to Amazon and it just got like a flat rejection every time. So
That's just something for fledgling filmmakers to keep in mind when you're dealing with these people.
Yeah, and so again, that's a lesson I definitely had to learn the hard way. But I'm still very proud of that movie. I was just actually thinking about it just the other day and just.
Do you ever think about just trying to self-distribute shit? Because when you get these, we'll say bottom tier or even just lesser tier distributors, they're playing a numbers game. They don't put any marketing into it, which essentially you're going to have to market it yourself anyway. So then they're kind of glorified aggregators because they get you on the streaming platforms and shit, but that's about it.
Well, because again, like I gave them the movie in like September 27 or like June, July, August, September 2017, whatever that time was. And they sat on it for a year. And then like, I was just like, hey, is Black and Blue coming out? And I was just like, cause I had won Best Documentary at Catalina Film Festival. I was like, hey, this could be great. Like press, like, I don't know. I mean, usually it takes about 3 months for a movie to come out. And so like when November, December rolled around, I was like, all right, this should be out soon. And Ted kept telling me, Ted Chalmers was just like, oh, well, I'm working on a limited theatrical release for it. We're trying this and we're trying that. And then cut to November 2019 and they just unceremoniously dump it on Amazon. And I'm like, I could have done that. I literally could have done that.
And now you wouldn't have to split. You wouldn't have to wait for statements to see what it's making. Like
it's like to wait a year for the movie to come out and for them to just shit it onto Amazon, not even tell me. Like I did it because I kept asking them. I was just like, guys, I have so many people that are waiting for this movie to come out. I need a release date. Like, when is this movie coming out? People keep asking me when it's coming out. And they're like, oh, we're working on it. We're working on it. And then suddenly I just get an email from Ted. It's just like, hey, Black and Blue's out on Amazon. It's like, great. And it just like, it felt
thanks for nothing. Yeah.
So fucking anticlimactic after everything I went through with that movie, after everything everyone in the movie went through. Like, not even me, man. Like, there were people who were like waiting for Black and Blue to come out because their story was going to be in it and people were going to hear their story. There's people that are still pissed at me because their story didn't make it into Black and Blue. You know, like
that's why making a documentary scares me, that you have this kind of responsibility to real people. You know what I'm saying? And if you if you start making a documentary and you end up not finishing it, you got a lot of people who invested time, energy, their stories into it. You're like, fuck, if it's a make 'em up, at least you're like, fuck it. The world doesn't really need this anyway. You know?
Well, and you know, again, that's one part of the big lesson being learned is that, you know, Asteroid has made me more money than any of my previous documentaries combined.
Yeah.
Actually, that kind of includes Loose Change because I never really took a paycheck and I didn't actually make money off of that personally. So
that whole that whole Loose Change thing with you it just, you were just like, hey, give this to people free. Make sure everybody, that was insane.
Do you regret that at all? Or do you think that was the move or something like that?
No,
I agree.
I mean, like if for some reason I did, and for some reason I took more money from it, and if for some reason we did things differently and we just kept all the money, like, even if I was, I mean, maybe now I'd be different because who knows where I would be in my life and career or whatever. But like, if for some reason I had like pocketed all this money and like gotten like rich off of it, and I was just sitting around in like a really nice house that had been paid for by Loose Change, I would kind of feel like a piece of shit, you know, because it's like, it was never the reason, you know, and that was never the idea, you know.
You weren't trying to exploit it, you know.
No, like I made a thing in my spare time about a thing I was pissed off about, and suddenly everyone in the world was watching it. And it's just like, that's what really fucking ground my gears, I suppose, is the proper tense. But just like, I don't know, all the people are just like, oh, he did it to be famous, he did it to get rich. And it's just like, you motherfuckers are watching this movie for free on the internet right now. Right. Like how? So, and again, with all that being said, you know, Corey and I are here. We've got a production company. I've directed Asteroid. We've made 3 feature films in the last 2 years, which is fucking crazy because that's 3 more. That's 3 more than we ever made out in LA. Well, documentaries we made, but like narrative feature films. So I directed Asteroid. Corey shot it. We made it together. You know, And our producer on that, Jeff Miller, was somebody that Corey had known from LA, from a feature film set that he was on, that actually was directed by the star of Asteroid, Kyle Carvin, because he's from the same hometown here in upstate New York. And he was out in LA directing this movie, and he knew Corey was out there, so they met up and they worked up, and Jeff Miller was a producer on that. And so we brought Jeff onto Asteroid just like as a nice producer to just like check everything, make sure all our paperwork was good. And he's the one that wound up giving the movie to ITN for us, actually. So, but then he saw the finished product and he, you know, found out how little we had spent to shoot it. And he was like, wow, like movies can be made in upstate New York for cheap and they can be good.
Dude, Hollywood's dead.
Or at least not.
It's obsolete. I
What,
feel like
LA?
Hollywood is obsolete unless you're making a very specific kind of movie based on IP with
And on
all the
that-
usual players.
And on that note, so cut to early 2021, and Jeff hits us up. He's like, hey, we got this heist film that we're trying to do out in LA, but it's going to cost us like $250,000, $300,000. We're going to send you guys the script. You send us back a budget proposal. And so we sent him back a budget proposal and we got the job. We
Nice.
found him we found this perfect cabin outside of Cooperstown. Local hires brought back like 90% of the Asteroid crew, brought back a bunch of cast members from Asteroid, got Daniel Baldwin, Louis Mandalore, Gary Daniels. It's Bring 'Em Back Dead, and it just came out.
Sweet.
So that was our second movie in upstate New York. And
What's
actually
the
this
title
Friday
again?
we're having Bring Him Back Dead. And it's the only movie called that. So it'll be really easy for you to find. I ran B camera on that and did behind the scenes. And actually the poster, I'm 99% sure those are all my pictures. So, and then this Friday, we're having a test screening of Ouija Witch, which is the horror movie that we shot here in May.
Nice.
So,
dude.
so
Wow.
August
Fucking
2020, August 2020, Asteroid, July, July 2021, Bringing Back Dead, May 2022, Ouija Witch. We were negotiating another big feature for next year, but that's probably not going to happen because now they're moving it like an hour and a half away, and it's not worth it for us to do it.
So that is your jam, though, is you want to make stuff locally right there. You're not really
We're
doing
doing it.
mercenary jobs to shoot on
We're doing
location
it,
in
man.
Georgia. You're not doing that kind of thing.
We're doing it because so we're here in Otsego County in upstate New York, which is the same county as Cooperstown, the Baseball Hall of Fame. And we got here and we realized that Otsego County doesn't have a film commission. Cooperstown doesn't have an official film commission.
Crazy.
So that was one of the first things we did. We wanted to do a 501c3, but things went wrong. So now we're shifting over to a 501c3. It's called Film Coop right now, our film commission, but we're going to be changing it to Film Otsego just because it's more about Otsego County as a whole and what we have to offer. Because out of the 3 feature films that we've shot here so far, they've had nothing to do with Cooperstown, and Cooperstown has had nothing to offer us because it's controlled by the Clark family, and it's just a whole thing. So yeah, I mean, we run this town.
So it seems like you kind of ended up doing what it was you initially wanted to do. Because I remember you telling me years ago that Loose Change came about because you wanted to do a narrative feature, and your research brought you that then evolved into a documentary. Am I remembering that right?
100%. And that's the nice thing about it. You know, like we're here now doing that. And so, you know, Jason, going back to what you were saying about, you guys can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I thought I lost audio for a sec. Going back to what you were saying about selling out, you know, like for me, and especially Loose Change, Black and Blue, all that stuff, like spending literally like years of my life working on documentaries about causes that I cared about and things that I want to make a difference about. And all those films are still valid. And it's all, like I said, I'm still proud of everything that I did, but you know, I'm chilling now. You know, like we've got a production company, we've got commercial jobs, we've got music videos, we're making feature films, and like, I don't care. Like, I'm done trying to change the world, you know? I mean, maybe that'll sound disappointing to some people, but it's just like, but I'm actually like happy now.
I see some gray in your beard too. It's like Abby Hoffman said. He's like, I mean, it's up to the young, you know what I'm saying? Abby Hoffman challenged the young before he killed himself. That it's up to them with their young legs to go out in the streets and make change, you know. So you did your part.
Yeah, I would like to think that I did. And like like I said, now I'm content. We're doing what we love. We're shooting movies. Like there's basically no pressure on us, and there's nobody like, I don't know. It's just nice. Like I'm actually like for the first time in a long time, I'm somewhere in my life where things are just good.
I'm happy you're happy. And how
Awesome.
glad were you that you got out of LA before the fucking pandemic hit?
Oh my God. And that was one of the things where I was still kind of like on the fence, like maybe I'm gonna go back to LA. And then I was like, I ain't going back to fucking LA. It was hard enough for me to make a living out there. Holy shit, man.
Chris and
And that's partially how we were able to make Asteroid, is because Corey and I were both out of work, so got on unemployment and like we both had LLCs, so we got some SBA money and we fucking just threw it all at making a movie, because it was just like, you know what? This is literally the only chance we're ever going to get to do something like this. This is the only time we're going to get money just dumped on us from above, and we have the ability to basically do whatever we want with it. And so we made a feature film with it. And it was a risk. Like it was definitely a risk at that time, and still like making it, and you know, for a while after it, because it's just like we got all this free money from the government and we threw it away at a feature film. You know, like threw it away, I use loosely, but I mean it was easy to at least be concerned about that. But I mean, like even at the time, we both joked about it, and I think we joked about it at the first screening that we had in like November. Like we shot the movie in August, and we had a test screening with like all the cast and crew November 1st, which was my birthday. But even at the test screening, we were just like, yeah, I mean, this is either going to be our first film or our last film. And we'll just spend the rest of our life paying it off. But you know what? We made a movie, and yeah, the movie has actually, as of the last check that we just got, the movie has officially made its budget back.
What was the budget, if you don't mind me asking?
Wow. Around 30 to 40, I think.
Not bad. And that's all self-financed, using the
all self-financed
COVID money.
Yep. Unemployment and SBA loans, which that's actually, that reminds me, I have to make my monthly payment for my SBA loan. So
that's fucking great.
But
that's
I mean,
a win. To anyone who would get mad too at you though for appropriating government funds that way, it's like, hey, at least he fucking did something with it versus all the people who just stole payroll protection money and shit, you know.
People who bought fucking sports cars and spent it all on the stock market and crypto, and like
get mad at them. Leave the filmmaker alone.
People who took literally, like people like Tom Brady got like millions of dollars, even though he definitely didn't need it. So, but again, it is worth noting that the unemployment and the SBA loans were intended to keep you and your business afloat. Right. And so by taking that money and making a feature film with it, we did exactly that.
It's the most responsible thing you could do.
We literally did exactly what we were supposed to do with the money. They were like, take this money and you need to use this as a way to get you through to when you start making money again. And we made a feature film. And again, like it took a while to get it done. And, you know, for a while, Corey and I both were just like, fuck, we're just like sitting on this thing right now and it's not coming out. We don't know how it's going to come out. And, you know, that's when Jeff stepped, because we had kind of our own contacts that we were shopping it around to. And then Jeff was just like, guys, I can get it to ITN. And we were like, yeah, I mean, I guess, sure, it's, you know, better than nothing. But then Stu at ITN watched it, really liked it. And yeah, it's everywhere now. It's kind of crazy. Actually, so cool. in our last statement, there was a line about South Korea. So nice. I want to find the South Korea, because there's some dubs apparently.
Yeah,
because
get your dub version on.
Yeah, because Miley, one of the actresses in it, she has friends like sending her like Instagram videos and like stories all the time. Like we're just like, oh, I just saw Asteroid on like Spanish TV or whatever. And I've seen like a very small clip of like Asteroid dubbed in Spanish, but if it's dubbed in South Korean, I would love to see that. So I might send a little email to Stu at ITN and be like, yo, where can I watch the South Korean dub of Asteroid?
Dude, you got to. And you might never have it that good again to not have to go schlepping around looking for money. That's the problem with making indie films, is if you don't find a way to self-finance it. And honestly, legally, it's illegal for you to try and get investors unless they're accredited investors who have like $1 million in liquid assets and shit, which is another fucking piece of shit policy that just fucks up poor people. Like poor people are too stupid to know whether or not they can invest their money. And this is essentially what that law says, you know. They're not savvy enough. So you're just inherently conning them or something, you know. But yeah, looking for money sucks. And then even having to pay these people. So now it's like, all right, we got a few guys who are in for a percentage of Cactus Jack. If it's becomes some cult film and is making money for 30 years, I always got to be cutting checks to people. Just the administrative side of it sucks too. So yeah, if you can finance it like you did, I mean, you might never have it that good again.
Yeah, and that was the beauty of it, because we had started writing the script in September 2019. It was just like, we don't know how we can shoot this, but we're writing it for cheap in case we can shoot it.
Yeah.
And then when COVID initially hit, Corey and I both were like, all right, well, I'm not making this movie anytime soon, I guess. But then, you know, things kind of played out over the next couple months, and we still kind of kept writing, kept having our writing days. But then, because actually the way it worked out, when we shot Asteroid, during that time period, I mean, we could kind of see it going into it, but especially looking back now, like the 2 weeks that we shot Asteroid in upstate New York was when there was like no COVID cases, because we were keeping an eye on our local cases in Otsego County, New York State, but also specifically Otsego County. And at the time when we were shooting Asteroid, I think there were like 7 active cases. There had only been like a couple hundred cases total. And I think like 6 or 7 deaths. So, I mean, and again, we just like, we saw where we were on the global stats. Yep. And it was just like, this is the safest time to do it if we're going to do it. And like everyone that came on board, cast and crew, like nobody cared. Everyone was just happy to be working and to be on a film set.
Is the cast all local as well, or did you pull in actors from LA?
Local-ish, New York City, right. New Jersey. Yeah,
there's a wealth of talent down there.
Yeah, no, apart from like bit parts and extras, yeah, there were just no like local actors that we pulled. But I mean, like the actors that came up from New York City, they were happy to do it and they were amazing. LeJohn came over from Cleveland, and actually LeJohn worked out for several reasons, because, you know, we put out the casting call and everyone in the script was kind of coded white. It wasn't like explicitly said, but it was just like, it was a middle upper class white family moving to upstate New York. I mean, come on. But Kenny was always kind of open. And so when I put out the casting call, I was just like, fuck it, open ethnicity. Let's see what comes back. And LeJohn's audition came through, and like, because even then, like we had gotten submissions for all the roles, and like the numbers were starting to go up, and I was just like, man, because I was also used to casting in LA, where like you put out a casting call and you have like 1,000 submissions for each role by the end of the day. But
which is another kind of problem, actually. But
yeah, it's a good and a bad problem.
Good and bad, right? Yeah.
Because I mean, you'll put out a casting call for like, I need a 18-year-old Asian girl, and like a 45-year-old Filipino man will apply for it just because he's just
on Tuesday nights he actually is an 18-year-old Asian girl.
And maybe, and you know, actually I think I remember in LA, like, and I was on set with, I think I was on the set of like The Closer or something, because like I knew someone that was running camera and I had just gotten to LA. But I remember talking to some actor who was giving me a ride back home after the shoot, but he told me a story about that, how like someone had put out a casting call for like a really fat, like sumo wrestler type guy, and this guy was like a kind of a skinny, diminutive Asian guy. But then he submitted for it and did his taping, but I guess that they were looking for that, like they were looking for people that weren't necessarily sumo wrestlers, but still submitted. And I don't know, it was like this weird reverse psychology thing. But he got the role, so I mean, it worked. But no, so we had the casting call out, a bunch of submissions had come in, and I was just like, man, I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to even start going through these, because what if we can't find our cast?
That's like a fun, exhilarating, yet daunting part of it all.
I love casting. I mean, all the films we've done, apart from the big names, like I've handled all the casting, and I'd like to think that I'm pretty good at it at this point. But no, when I started going through the submissions for LeJohn, and then, you know, I marked like 8 or 9 people to send tapes or send sides to. And like, I remember LeJohn's tape came in and I pressed play on it. And before he even said a word, I was laughing, because this guy had built because it's Kenny's first scene in the script. So it's just like, he's walking up with like a box of supplies, and he's coming up to the front counter, and there's a cash register. And in the script, it says he's got his name tag, Kenny. And so sure as shit, LeJohn walks into frame holding this cardboard box, like full of just like whatever he could grab around the house, and a little handwritten name tag that said Kenny, and a little like fake cardboard cash register that he had made. and he walks into the middle of the room and just fucking crushes the scene. I mean, like, every line delivery was perfect. Like, he looked the part, and like, you could, as soon as I saw it, I actually like took a quick video of it with my phone and I sent it to Corey through Facebook. I was just like, yo, look at this guy. And he built a set and everything. And we're like, right there, we were like, that's him. That's Kenny right there.
That's awesome.
And even the rest of the cast when they got up, and then when we did our Zoom read, and then once we started shooting, like, this is even it's in our behind the scenes documentary. Maddie's just like, I'm shocked at how well this was cast. Like, everyone is just like perfect for the role. They're like exactly how I imagined them. Yeah, it was just fucking great, man. It was just such a great time. Like, I know that like feature films are usually stressful and a shit show and a nightmare, and especially on an indie set, and especially a first time director, there's any number of things that can go wrong, but we all had such a blast, man. I mean, like, I was just happy to finally be directing a film. Like, Corey was happy to be shooting it. This is a script that we had written together. We're shooting it right near our hometown. The crew's just happy to be working. The cast is just happy to be working. We're all just in it. And the more we got, like, we didn't shoot it obviously entirely chronologically, but like a good chunk of it, we were kind of shooting in order. And so like a lot of the crew members who like hadn't gotten the chance to maybe read the full script, but they had read the full script, and they're just like, man, like, I'm really starting to see this thing come together, you know?
That's awesome, dude. Sounds like the dopest upstate New York love-in since Woodstock.
It was pretty good, man.
Let me ask you something. I know you don't like to dwell on loose change and all that, but it did send you on a trajectory in your life where you've had to, I guess, at least be confronted by this world of conspiracy. And you've had some dealings with Alex Jones, I hear. Is that true?
I knew that was coming up. Yeah.
Hey, man.
Sorry.
We got to talk about what zeitgeist.
No, guys, listen.
I think it's on our wheel if you want to spin it.
I don't mind talking about this with people who aren't out to get a fucking soundbite from me, you know? Like, I'm totally okay with talking about this, but fucking The Daily Show called Corey the other day because Alex had just gotten hit with a judgment, and I guess they had found the Washington Post article that someone had just recently did on Corey. But The Daily Show called us, and Corey was like, I wonder why they were calling me. They mentioned the Washington Post article. I was like, they're calling you because of Alex Jones.
And they want a soundbite, they want an opinion.
And they want a soundbite. And like, I don't think Corey ever called them back, and they didn't follow up.
I'm curious to hear what you think about the whole lawsuit and everything, of course, the Sandy Hook and everything. I'm curious to hear, but I want to know if you got some good Alex Jones anecdotes too, man.
I got some crazy Alex Jones footage. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like the Alex Jones that we knew and like that we were all hanging out with back then is not, I mean, he's obviously still Alex Jones.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around since Slacker and Waking Life. Most of us learned about him, but
that's it. You like, you know, you even go back and you watch him in like Waking Life and even Scanner Darkly, you know, like he was still like that version of Alex, you know, but like it's something about, I don't know, because I mean, ever since the Sandy Hook thing, like he's just like gone completely off the rails, and like he does, like he looks like Alex, but he doesn't. Like, you know, he's obviously put on some.
Well, he's talked about alcohol use and everything, so you know.
Yeah, and I mean,
when people start to, I'm just saying, have troubles, it's gonna, you know what I mean.
I don't know, man. It's so
what was your dealing with him? Were you on his show, or did you interview?
Well, I mean, we all went on a couple times. I mean, Burmis went and worked for him for a while, had a show on InfoWars, but no, I mean, the main reason we're kind of tied to Alex's mind, or tied to Alex in people's mind, is because when the third edition we were making, which was supposed to be in theaters and Charlie Sheen was going to narrate it and it was going to be distributed by Magnolia, you know, all that shit. When that was happening, and then that Hollywood deal fell through, and suddenly we still had to make a movie because we owed all these people money for a movie that was supposed to be coming out in theaters. So Alex stepped in and helped us out and basically just gave us the money to finish it. But I mean, that's, again, also the third edition, which is the one that like only a fraction of people have seen compared to the second edition, which is the one that actually went viral. So, you know, people are just like, oh, well, if anyone says like, oh, Alex Jones helped create Loose Change or Alex Jones was a part of it, that's not true at all. Like the movie came out, the movie went viral, and then he gave us finishing funds for the 3rd edition. And again, we were friendly, you know, for the most part, and like we went on a show a couple times. Like I said, Burmis went and worked for him after the fact, after we all went our separate ways. But I don't know, man. I just never liked his tactics. And
yeah,
I think a prime example of this is the 5-year anniversary where we were having silent marches, you know, by the World Trade Center. Like we told everybody, we were like, listen, this is a silent march. Be respectful, be quiet, you know, wear your shirts, hold your signs, whatever. Do not argue with people. Do not scream at people. Do not fight with people. Thousands of us in the same shirt walking up and down the street is going to carry a much stronger message than anything any of you are ever going to say to anyone.
That's that Abby Hoffman political theater kind of thing. Make a statement visually.
Yeah. And so we did that. We had our silent march, which was great. But then cut to like a couple hours later, and Alex has rallied a whole bunch of people behind these police barriers and is just bullhorning fucking Ground Zero. And like, thankfully, this was after all the bells. It was after the reading of the names. It was after our silent march. But I think it's got to be on one of the cameras that was floating around, because I know someone came up to me. I was looking for it at some point and I couldn't find it. But I know for a fact I said, I don't agree with this right now. Like, not like, but like, you could see it in my face. And I said something, it was just like, this isn't cool, man.
Right.
Like, we told Alex, no fucking bullhorning, man. Like, we're at Ground Zero. It's 9/11. Like, you do not need to be bullhorning. And he just fucking went and did it anyway.
Yeah, but what could you imagine Alex Jones doing anything other than that? Like, that's what blowhards do, you know, they blow hard.
Yeah, I know. It was just a prime
And I say that as somebody
example.
over the years who hasn't completely demonized him, and especially even the Sandy Hook shit. Like, again, we were talking about this yesterday with Lampton. We live in a country where everyone's so enamored with the idea of being not only tolerant, but inclusive and supportive of people with mental illness, et cetera. So the fact that we need to defund the police, we need to do all these things, you know, rightly or not, in the name of almost catering to people with mental illness. Yet anytime somebody who has mental illness does something and we don't like it, we just napalm them. Alex Jones very well could have one or several mental disorders that would lead him to truly believe that the Sandy Hook incident was a bunch of crisis actors and shit. So if he truly believes it and he says it, it's almost like a preacher who's preaching that gay people are going to hell. They believe it. They're not a charlatan. They're not just trying to make money off of it. Do you cut somebody some slack then?
I don't know. On that topic, let's talk about Kanye West.
You legally, I was watching his Cuomo interview and he's like, Matt, you can't call him Kanye. He gets upset.
Oh,
Cassius Clay.
I'm sorry.
Yay, now.
Fucking whatever, man. But like, and he's just,
He'll sue you.
He is so crazy. He's so crazy.
And then, like, he's like hanging out with Candace Owens and like wearing White Lives Matter shirts. And it's just like, dude, do you remember Hurricane Katrina? Because we all do. Like, how do
George
you go
Bush doesn't care about black people.
How do you go from George Bush doesn't care about black people to White Lives Matter and there's a Jewish conspiracy and complete opposite direction and like hanging out with fucking Donald Trump and shit? Like, man. And again, like I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I don't know him personally, but if we're going to point the finger at people and just be like, there might be some mental illness going on, I think Kanye's, like Kim Kardashian had said something to that effect. Other Kardashians had said something to that effect.
I think he has mental issues that are well documented, but the point being then is he would consider that dismissive. He'd be like, fuck you. I don't have thoughts that I thought out. This is mental illness is making me believe these things. Maybe you're wrong and I'm right, you know? It's all tricky, man.
It's probably one of those things where he just probably doesn't have a lot of like real friends who can just be like, dude, this is a bad idea. Like, all the shit you're doing right now, man, is not a good look.
He probably jettisons anyone who disagrees with him, you know.
And, you know, a lot of people around him are probably getting paychecks in order to agree, or are agreeing with him in order to keep getting the paychecks. So, I mean, I don't think he has a lot of people that can pull him aside and just be like, yo, dude, we're kind of concerned about you a little bit. You know, Kim and some others have done it like kind of publicly on Twitter, but it's just like,
which isn't the way to do it either.
Yeah, the guy needs some kind of help and not a platform. And, you know,
I
don't
mean,
know.
shit, I know actual people who are all about his turn of, character and but they believe the same crazy shit he does. So that's the problem, is that there are these whole cadres of people out there, no matter what fucked up ideology you got, you're not alone, and the internet will help you find each other. And next thing you know, you think you got some movement going. That's all Twitter is. Twitter outrage is such a small minority of the actual people, but yet they move mountains getting corporations to change policies, etc. It's
Well,
crazy.
at the risk of sounding like an Alex Jones sympathizer, let me just say this. I feel like, I mean,
Don't like the
I
Sandy Hook
never
joke.
met, yeah, the Sandy Hook shit. But the same thought process. Like I don't believe what he believes about Sandy Hook, but the same thought process that got you, Dylan, on a path of further investigating 9/11. You wanted to make a narrative feature, and then you were like, holy shit, wait a minute, there's no evidence of a plane here. There's this, there's all these holes. So that sets you on a course. It's that same thought process. I can see where he kind of did a hard left with Sandy Hook, like, oh, there's footage of all these kids being taken out of the thing, and
I think it was more like a hard right.
and this, yeah, but and you can't even. I don't want to say you can't blame him for it, because what he did was hateful and fucked up, but except for the gay frog thing, anybody who supports gay frogs needs to stop.
Homophobe.
But I can see, because now we live in an age where we require all the information. And if there's a piece of that information that doesn't fit or isn't there, we fill in the holes. And that's where the mental illness of someone like an Alex Jones fills in the holes with something fucked up, or the mental illness of a Kanye fills it in with something that's fucked up. But when there's anomalies, when the dad is being good natured and then he gets up to the microphone and starts crying at the press conference and things like that, and there's questions as to whether the school was really even open or all of this, I feel like when we're given information by media or by our government or by law enforcement, they give us too much, but still not enough. The more information, like, I kind of wish we were back in the time, like, nobody had any idea John F. Kennedy was trying to have Castro assassinated back in 1961. Had we had the kind of information available to us back then that we have now,
part of it isn't
it's
not only the present information we have, but it's the fact that now there's a historical database of shit like the Castro thing, Operation Northwoods, etc., that these conspiracy types can point to. And the problem is
Tonkin.
Yeah, exactly. And there's actually a ton of them, Tuskegee, etc., the fucking MK Ultra shit. Like, there's enough fuckery that has gone on that people probably should reasonably be skeptical of what the government and the media tell them. So, and I think religions exist because we inherently feel this need to connect the dots, because not knowing is a dangerous thing for humans evolutionarily. So it almost works out better to just come up with an answer, whether it's true or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to ponder these things. So,
which
like
is
you said, it's not even the mentally ill that fill that in.
Which is what makes it easy for an Alex Jones to jump to. Nobody even
especially
fucking
when you're the
died there.
guy who's been saying Northwoods, and turning everyone else onto it for years, and it's this thing that no one else acknowledges, and he's got to see himself at this point as this guy who's on to this real shit that hardly anyone else is getting, and he's like a Paul Revere that no one's listening to. So for him to even question and check and balance himself when he has these fucked up thoughts, it kind of doesn't even jive, you know.
Also, he's Bill Hicks,
autopilot.
So he's got that whole thing going.
He's an interesting character.
Yeah.
And he's an interesting character. I mean, I will agree with that for sure. I think it was just, it's it's one thing to have those thoughts and those ideas, and it's even another thing to just kind of say them on the radio. But you know,
to say
I
them as
think that,
fact, that's the problem. Like when
well,
Gull's
and
getting
that,
at,
and like if the families are suing you for like emotional trauma and damages, then you probably didn't just go on your radio show and say what you thought. Like things probably happened to these people, and I
Yeah.
know they did. I know
Death
that things
threats, people
happened to
showing
Lenny
up with-
Posner.
yeah.
I know that things happen to these people, and I mean, like, it's again like it's kind of like January 6th, where it's just like you knew what the fuck you were doing. Like you knew that these people were riled up. You knew that a lot of them were coming to DC ready for violence. I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw giant flags with AR-15s and come and take it and fuck Joe Biden. Like
Right.
I saw the anger right there on the streets before they were at the Capitol.
Oh, you were
Like,
there?
I was there, man.
Yeah, dude.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
I posted pictures. Like
I remember
I
the
got a
shit you posted. I
picture.
was like, what?
I got a picture of fucking QAnon shaman screaming freedom in the streets.
Oh god.
Because at the time I was just like, look at this guy in this crazy outfit with these tattoos,
Right.
and just yelling freedom without a shirt in like 40-degree weather. I'm getting
Did it
pictures of
feel,
this
well, let me
fucking
ask
guy.
you that, because now it is very easy too, if it was just a couple of hundred jackasses. I mean, because you saw a lot
Way
of
more than that.
right. But how many
Way
entered the
more
Capitol
than that.
building? I'm saying, how many entered the building?
Geez, I think a couple hundred at least.
That's what
right?
I'm saying. It was about a
Yeah.
couple hundred, I think, that actually breached and went in.
Yeah.
If the rest were just tailgaters and like, yeah, fucking go on, but they weren't actually going to take that extra step.
No, they went in and like
Yeah.
they were. Yeah, there was a legitimate concern, and especially with the things that we know now, that they were ready for violence.
What do you think of the role? I mean, I guess you can't even blame the media on that one, because those were boots on the ground and Trump at a mic. So it's not even like the media helped rile those people up. That shit was direct
No,
action.
that was all him. And Alex was there, so I'm completely justified in
Christ.
bringing up January 6th as well after talking about
Oh,
Alex
dude.
Jones, because Alex
Of
was
course he
fucking
was.
there, man. That's my point. Is like, how does the crazy uncle of the 9/11 truth movement from 2006 turn into President Donald Trump's right-hand man at a fucking
Right.
armed insurrection at the Capitol, man? Just wild
Because the
shit.
Democrats are the ones drinking the adrenochrome.
Well, it's the same thing goes with Kanye. You know, it's just like I can't directly link it to Trump becoming president, but I will say over the last couple of years, you know, however many years you want to chalk it up to at this point, but like I've definitely seen a shift in the political and cultural landscape and just discourse in general, where it's just like people whose politics I never knew and never would have known about and never would have talked to them about,
Social
and they never would have talked to me
media.
about it. It's
Social media is a fucking major pillar of the problem.
it does play a part in it, but I don't know. I feel like people have just gotten more politically charged up, and like I'm sure it could just be the coalition. It could just be coalescing of social media and extreme political views brought about by the presidency of Trump. I don't know, but
Well, I
there's
mean,
just so much-
really, it kind of has its seeds earlier than that in the Tea Party movement, I think, and the birther movement, which kind of brought about the rise of Trump, et cetera.
Yeah.
But all of this
true.
about the time of the fucking iPhone getting in everybody's hands, to be honest,
yeah,
about the time Twitter
2008,
came online.
2009. Yeah.
And that just makes bipartisanship go so crazy, because it's like it's the fucking Raiders and the Chargers fans in the parking lot daily, every second of the day. You know what I mean? It's fucking just confrontational. You can't escape it and just read the newspaper and process your thoughts and then talk about it at dinner and shit. Now it's like knee jerk,
can't-
it's immediate, you know.
I can't even watch YouTube now without getting the same two fucking political ads over and over again for these two fucking people in New York. It's just like, Mark Molinaro spent $75,000 on an SUV, and they're this, and I'm just like,
I just pay Google the $10 a month to not see ads.
oh
Fuck.
God, man. Like I'm considering it, but it's just like, it's just
Here's
it's that
a-
time of year. It's that magical time of year where it's just all
Yeah.
politics all the time.
As I'm just conversationally processing what we're saying in real time and shit, I actually kind of can, in retrospect, see a direct line to Alex Jones going to support Trump. And you know what it is? It's the drain the swamp rhetoric.
Yeah.
That was his whole thing. It's a swamp, fucking 9/11, you know, everything. So if this maverick outsider comes in and he's going to drain the swamp, I could see Alex Jones going head over heels for that shit. And just how you get these powerful men, they get together and they feel like they're in some fucking club and identify with each other, you know?
Oh, it is a club and you're not in it.
Oh, yeah. Like Groucho Marx said.
Oh, I thought that was Carlin.
Yeah. Well, who was it?
It was Groucho first.
Yes. There we go. Woody Allen stole it too, I think. What do you do to keep shit like fun and funny in your life? Because like everything we've talked about, we try and just fucking verbally jerk off basically on here. This is all serious, heady stuff.
Well, I mean, you know,
what's making you laugh lately? What are you watching or something that lightens your spirits?
You know, I've been playing my guitar a lot lately. I'm actually starting to write some songs again for the first time in a while. You know, I like my Always Sunny reruns. You know, I'll see the big dumb movies in theaters. I'm actually gonna go see Black Adam on Thursday just so I can be up with all the memes that are about to come out about it.
Man, when he says he goes and sees the big dumb movies, he's putting his money where his mouth is.
Well, but I also see, like, I have tickets for the Knives Out sequel. I'm going to go see that, and it's limited theatrical run up in Albany in November. I got tickets for Wakanda Forever, Avatar 2. Lady,
you already got tickets for all these?
Not Avatar 2. The tickets aren't on sale for that yet, but I do have my tickets for Wakanda Forever.
Sure, when those early
and the Knives Out
adopters.
sequel, because it was a limited theatrical run for Knives Out 2, and I just wanted to get them. No, I go see movies. I play my guitar. I watch Always Sunny reruns and movies in theaters, and
try not to lose your mind.
Yeah.
Did you feel there was any? All right, the fact that you got the rights to Black and Blue back right as the George Floyd shit was going down, how conflicted were you in thinking this is perfect timing and oh shit, is it going to feel like I'm exploiting this thing?
I mean, I wasn't really expecting to like make any money off of it, and I really haven't still. I think I've gotten like maybe like $400 or $500 total. So I just knew that at that period of time, if I emailed Journeyman and said I have a documentary about police brutality, they'd be like, we will watch it and we will almost certainly take it. Send us a screener right now. But no, I mean, like it's Journeyman, and I think it got put up on a YouTube channel free to watch recently, and I think it got a pretty decent amount of views on there. But only like I think 50 to 100,000, which I think translates to like $100 or $200 maybe.
Yeah.
But no, I was just happy that I knew for a fact that as soon as I was getting the rights back, I was immediately going to be able to hand them over to a company that I knew and trusted and had been working with for years. And so that was really it, just the relief, like, oh my God, this fucking film that I put so much of myself into that has been just murdered by this terrible distribution company is now going to a company that I know and trust. And, you know, that was the benefit to me. It's like, it's going to Journeyman. Like, I know the movie is at least going to be in good hands. I know I'm going to get monthly statements. I know that they're going to tell me exactly what they're doing and when they're doing it.
Do you guys see yourself with this studio you've built, a little mini studio, essentially, like just trying to build out your own channel or a Patreon or something like that, where you're just kind of putting out content regularly and building a fan base so you can distribute yourself?
I mean, we're kind of already doing that with a lot of the news stories that we do. Like a lot of the local news that we do is usually like community stuff. It's basically community service. Like, you know, if like someone's having a fundraiser for cancer, or, you know, like we did a recruitment video for the local sheriffs, you know, like we got work coming in. We have community service things that we do. We get the occasional feature film.
If you're making a living doing it too.
And that's really it. Like, I don't care about like views or really anything other than just the fact that we get to keep doing what we're doing, and we get to keep making movies. And the movies that we help produce through Otsego Media, you know, we get 10% on the back end of each one of those that we do. So I'm pretty excited for that first check to come in for Bringing Back Dead, because I actually gave up my paycheck for that one. So whenever that royalty check comes in, that'll be the first time I get paid for Bringing Back Dead.
And that's something you didn't direct then? You just worked as a producer?
I just ran camera. I helped. Well, I did a lot more than that. I mean, I should have gotten a producer credit technically because I not only gave up my pay so we could bring in my DP at the last minute because the gaffer that was going to come in just completely bailed on us and we had no gaffer and Corey was going to DP it, but he's just like, without a gaffer, I can't shoot this thing. And I was currently shooting the Unspeakable with my DP from LA, Ryan. We were in New York City when this thing fell through. We were like 2 weeks out from bringing back Dead. And so I was just like, hey, Ryan, you want to get off this documentary shoot and come to upstate New York and DP a narrative feature film? And he did it. But it required, like I said, it required me giving up my check and also, you know, providing some things for it. But
You're alone, right?
Yeah. Is it cool if I start filming now?
No, when we get inside.
Why are you here?
I just thought it was really interesting, you know, that someone hasn't left their basement in 6 months, not even to use the bathroom. Is that true?
Why would I want to go out there? I got everything I need right here. You know how many aliases I've used calling into radio shows?
I've had it up to my goddamn gills with the systematic feminization of this country.
Of course we want to. Get your own damn show if you think you got that much to say.
You live in your mom's basement.
What's so special about my loser son?
You really do hate your own mother.
She's a woman. Why wouldn't I?
You know, there's some disconnect there, and if I could find it, what is hate? Where does it come from? Where does it go? Dude, this guy's, it's like pure hate, man.
I want to see something really fucking cool. What a fucking show. Stop! Right here. Look at me! Look at me! We're gonna help you show them the light. We're gonna change the world.
This is Cactus Jack coming to you live from a studio audience.
To the man who calls himself Cactus Jack, we have watched as you have rocketed to infamy.
And you wonder why these cornered animals lash out.
And now, we have watched as you have called for literal blood.
I know you're out there listening. It's buzzing in your ears, burrowing into your brain.
Do it.
Jack, you're gonna love this.
I pulled that trigger off his head.
Your VPN will not shield you. The darknet will not hide you. You and your kind are finished.
You think I'm scared of you?
Come and get me.
Might I be your neighbor?